Well, in the year 2000, Craig Hamilton was a highly successful sports broadcaster. But just days before the Sydney Olympics, his world came crashing down when he suffered a psychotic episode and was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. 12 years on, Craig is one of the most sought-after motivational speakers, and his latest book, A Better Life, includes advice on how to manage mental illness. And he joins us now from Sydney. Craig, thanks so much for being there.
Nice to talk to you, Amy.
Craig, in this book you say that mental illness has made you a better person and that your diagnosis was the start of everything coming good. Tell us why that is.
Well, it made me confront the lifestyle I was leading. That's the biggest thing, and it made me confront the decisions that I made in life. I think prior to 2000, my attitude a lot of the time was, if things worked out for the best, then I would take full credit for that. And if things didn't work out well and didn't have the desired result, then that was someone else's fault. I think the biggest lesson was the lesson of self-responsibility. But life's better today. I'm still managing bipolar disorder, and I think the message that comes out of this book, and I want it to come out of this book, it's a message of hope for those that are dealing with a mental illness daily, and also for the families and the supporters, the carers for those that deal with a mental illness every day.
Yes, because this book, of course, includes a piece from your wife as well. I do want to mention that in just a moment, but you specifically detail some very personal experiences which are psychotic episodes. What are you hoping to achieve by sharing such personal information?
Well, this is what we have to do, the way I see it, is to normalise the situation, because my experience is not unique. Psychotic episodes occur daily in Australia. People have mania, experience mania, they experience clinical depression. These are normal things at times for people who have a mental illness, a bipolar disorder or an acute depression. Now, I've got to the point where I can comfortably speak about these experiences. They don't touch me anymore in terms of any embarrassment factor, and that's always been the biggest problem with this issue. It has been the stigma that is associated with anything to do with mental health. It doesn't move the debate forward. It doesn't help the next person or the next family, and I believe if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
One of the more touching elements of your book, I mean, you've travelled so far and wide speaking to people, but some people have come out of the different corners of Australia to come forward and share their experience with you, particularly in regional Australia. Has it been a shock to you to find out how widespread and prevalent experiences are that are in common with what you've experienced in all corners of Australia?
No, I haven't been shocked, because I realised pretty early on in the piece, it took me a long time to recover from the events of 2000 when I was first diagnosed. It was a shocking time. It was a traumatic time. It was life-changing. But when I got to a point where I could speak about it and I could write a book about it, I wanted to make a difference, and I knew there was an issue here that needed to be confronted, it needed to be talked about. Now, in my travels around Australia, once you share your story, and once you say, yeah, I've been there too, and I've battled this illness, and I've had clinical depression, then people feel more comfortable in sharing their story with you. And in many cases, it's been the first time they've ever told anyone, because they sort of, it's like they trust you because they know you've walked the road as well.
When you write those passages about those acute experiences that you had, was it something that was cathartic to write, or was it difficult to write so personally about those experiences?
It's a really good question. I was actually asked that for a number of years when I first wrote my first book, which was Broken Open, and I always said I wrote the book for other people. It was for the next family or for the next person. And I said the same thing about this book. But the truth is, when I thought about it more, I wrote both books for myself. I had to heal and from these experiences, and they were both incredibly cathartic. Once you're able to put it out there on paper, you deal with it, and it gives you that space to heal. So The answer to your question is, initially, they've both been written for me, but I hope they can help the next person. That's the secondary thing.
And just finally, Craig, your wife also writes in it, we're still on a learning curve, and it still seems like you're moving through all these issues and living with it. But can I just briefly ask you about your message about social media? In the book you call it anti-social media. What impact do you think social media is having on society and the prevalence of mental illness and even depression?
Well, we never sit still, you know, and that's a choice. Social media is fine. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter. It's part of my role within the ABC. I work in the media, but I also recognise the importance of having time out. And we can be all consumed with social media. And if you're on 24/7 and you're connected all the time, you're hardwired up, you're wired all the time. I don't think we're designed that way. I think we need that time out, we need to relax, we need to get away from it, we need to turn these things off. Have a real conversation over a cup of coffee, not via a phone.
Craig Hamilton, thanks so much for sharing your experience with us, and congratulations on your second book.
Thank you, Amy. Great to talk to you.